You're watching and listening to the Premier League preview show, the last one before the World Cup. And you know what that means? We're going to be having some World Cup talk at the end of it as well. So stay tuned. We're back, baby. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to another Premier League preview show, joined by my co-host, the man himself, who did an excellent job last week, Friday, holding the fort with my other co-host on the Arsenal show in Wilf. How you doing, my bro, Ed?
Yeah, really good, really good. Enjoyed it. Wilf more than held his own last week. I think he brought it better than I do. Enjoyed it. A lot to do when you're hosting and clicking all the buttons, but it was good. It was good fun.
Exactly, yes. Because me and Ed, when we do this, usually we share the load in terms of getting the comments up, getting the banners up and ready, and talking about different things and keeping an eye on the comments. And yeah, there's a lot of maintenance that you have to do with this. So yeah, but now I'm glad that we're back, both at it. TED Talks, as CM likes to call it, and we're going to be back we'll still be doing content. Don't you worry about that. Stay tuned towards the end as well, as we'll discuss a little bit what's going to be coming up for the World Cup. But this is going to be the last Premier League preview show we're going to do up until December and the end of December until after Christmas. So yeah, how are you feeling, bro? Like for the last Premier League show, what's your thoughts overall? Oh, not just on your team, because if you don't know, he's a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan and he's not going to be talking all sunshine and rainbows about his club over there. But what's your thoughts been on the Premier League season so far? Have you enjoyed it? Or has it been quite mundane? What's your thoughts on it?
No, I think it's been an exciting season. I don't think many people had Arsenal flying high as they are now. Not many people had Newcastle trouble in the top four just yet. We've had some bonkers results, like the Man United's loss to Brentford. We've had some crazy sackings. People have gone, people have come in. We've got, teams down the bottom that maybe you weren't expecting to be quite down there. I think it's been really good. It feels a bit like anyone can beat anyone right now. And, Liverpool have lost to Forest and, Fulham almost pulled a draw out of Man City last week. It's got like the feel of the Championship, but with better football, I think, this season.
I totally understand what you mean. And this is why we love the Premier League, though, isn't it, Ed? Because of how unpredictable it is. You don't always get, Man City have kind of made it a little bit more boring at the top, I'd say, by always constantly running away with it. But of course, you're going to have that with the quality that Manchester City have in their attack and their manager and their defense and so much, so forth. But in the middle parts of the table, let's really say from the top four to the mid-table to the relegation battle, it's been very unpredictable. There's been a lot of surprise teams emerging. Newcastle in third place. Literally, no matter what you thought about Newcastle and how much of a threat you thought they could have been this season, nobody went for Newcastle in third at any point. So yeah, so for them to be breaking into it, and then you got Bournemouth, who have shocked everyone. Literally everyone put Bournemouth like bottom of the league or at least in the relegation zone. They're out of it. They're flying. Same for Fulham too. And then nobody. Well, people thought that Wolves were going to struggle, but to struggle as bad as they have, it's been crazy. And then Leicester, who went down, and now they're coming back up. But crazy season so far. I'm sure got a lot more of it to come. So yeah, before we get into it, guys, I promise you we will talk about the World Cup and you can hear mine and Ed's thoughts on it. Usually, if time would have permitted us, we would have done like a whole stream on this and we will have plenty more coming. But yeah, just for now, we'll talk about it. But we got to go through the Premier League preview show. But first of all, your comments in the chat. Like Shay, big up my brother Shay in here. Hope you're keeping well. Hope you're keeping good. Hello, says G Staffy. Hope you're keeping good, G Staffy. Enjoying a Palmo tonight, are you? That's just my guess. Big up yourself, G Staffy. Big up my bro Ed in here as well. It is going to be a big Premier League preview show tonight with England also in there. And yes, I got the new... Jay, you did get the Newcastle score right, indeed. Is that correct, Ed?
Yeah, but he didn't put it in the comments. So after the thing... So don't forget to put it in the comments afterwards. I can't keep up with everyone in the live. in the
All
live
right.
things. It needs to be in the comments afterwards.
Big up, Shay. Make sure you get them in the comments afterward and you'll get your points in at the end. Big up yourself, Moss, in here as well. Hope you're keeping good. Talking about the championship and it being Remembrance Holiday here as well. Remembrance Day is today here in England. Hope you're keeping good. Paxton, got to miss this one, but I've got my predictions ready to drop in a couple of hours. Pax, you will be missed for sure. And as I saw Ed put it in the Discord server. So yeah, for sure, Pax. Glad to see you in here. And you know what? We'll see you later in the comments. Definitely get yours in and your scorers too. Don't forget about that. And guys, the scorers, they're not mandatory, but if you get your predictions in, you can be within a chance of winning multiple prizes, including giveaways of Tereak's talk, merch. We got plenty coming on in the future. Got club items that you would want. Plenty of people. So make sure you stay tuned, get your predictions in, stay consistent, and you'll be in with a chance of winning some big prizes indeed. Big up yourself, Wilf, in the place, holding the fort last week, saying, "It's happening, T-Money. Big love to my Tereak Talks fan." Big up yourself each and every time. David Lee's in here. Big up yourself, David, saying big up Tereak and Edmin. And with the fist emoji, I'm guessing he meant that. I do that. I do that myself. I type it in. It saves time than searching it, and it usually pops up there. But I get what you're saying there. He's got the bang in there as well. Big up Solo Errol in the play, saying, "Yes, my guys. Big up yourself. Nice seeing you in here, Solo." And who else have we got? Of course, we got the brother B and B saying, "I predict a riot." And I wonder what B&B is talking about. You know what? Without further ado, it's going to be the first Premier League game in a weekend. And who is that? Well, it's not the first one. It's the last one on Saturday. But the first one we're going to talk about is Wolverhampton Wanderers, which is Ed's team, versus Arsenal, which if you don't know, this is an AFC hat. Here we go at the Molyneux. Ed, you know what? I know you're not going to be feeling too bright, but hit us with the records and stats for us.
Yeah. So no draws in the last 5 games between our two teams. 2 wins for Wolves, which seems like an eon ago now. Sandwiched between 2 wins for Arsenal last year and a win before those 2. And if we look at the form of both teams as well, Arsenal's form, very impressive. 3 wins, a loss and a draw. This is without the midweek games in the Cups for our teams. So I think this isn't any banter. What did Arsenal do? I have no idea. Genuinely don't know how they did in the
We lost 3-1 to Brighton.
Oh, okay. I really didn't know. Was it? I was going to say proper team or
no? No, I wouldn't. No, much change. We played stronger teams in the Europa League than this, so yeah, much changed indeed.
And Wolves, we did actually win in midweek. We beat Leeds' under-23s that they put out, and we put out a mixed bag team with a few more starters than they did. But our form, realistically, is in the league is 3 losses, a draw, and a win, which again feels like a long time ago now, that Forest win.
And yeah, exactly. It's crazy. And also thinking about it, with Arsenal and Wolves, it's kind of, when the season starts, Arsenal usually up there, first or second, depending on whatever table you look at, if they put AFC Bournemouth in there, and Wolves towards the bottom. And kind of like how it's been at the start of the season for both of us. So yeah, Arsenal are up there at the top and Wolves in second bottom. But as we go through the injuries, I'm going to throw some names out for Ed, and I'm sure he'll have a much more up-to-date knowledge on this. So yeah, of course. So Diego Costa still suspended, right? He's going to be missing this and not going to be back until Boxing Day.
Boxing Day, yeah.
There you go. What about on Mateus Nunes? What's the expectancy on him?
I think he's touch and go, but I think it would have been a late one. I think the fitness test will happen. I think everyone's expecting him to start.
Right. Yeah. What shoulder injury was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, shoulder injury that took him off. It got him took off against 2 games ago, whatever that was. 2 games ago.
Was it Crystal Palace? It was.
No, Brentford.
Oh yeah,
Brentford.
That was the one.
For Martinho.
Yeah, that's the one. Exactly. Nelson Semedo, is he back from suspension?
Yes, he will be wanted because of the Leeds game.
Yeah, the Carabao Cup.
I don't think any Wolves fans are overly convinced about him anyway at the minute. I think his head's been turned by the Chelsea and Barcelona and a couple of other rumours flying about that people are interested.
Serious? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Nelson Semedo, we'll be honest for that
Not
there.
not as a right back, he's a wing back.
Yeah. Even then, I think he's all right. I think he's decent as a wing back, but then still, for Chelsea and Barcelona standard, I'm not sure for that indeed. But what about Johnny Otto? What about him? Because he picked up a hamstring injury, and there was talking about him possibly returning for this game.
Yeah, possibly. I think if Semedo's back, I think he'll come in and start. I think just the pace of Semedo against Martinelli in particular, I think will be useful.
True. That's a good point there. What about Raul Jimenez? He's back now, isn't he? He's been back in training.
Yeah, he came back. There was a lot of content on the Wolves YouTube channel of him doing one-on-ones and not head tennis, football tennis in the areas inside. I think he'll probably be on the bench. I think people are thinking that he'll come back, be on the bench so he can go to the World Cup guilt-free, that he came back for his club first.
Yeah, exactly that there. And then the others, which, there isn't really much news to follow up on, in Sasa Kalajic and Pedro Neto. No return dates as of yet. Have you heard anything in terms of
they're
them
both
coming
out.
back? Or?
Kalajic will be lucky to be back this season.
Right, fair play right there. So there, and then of course Chiquinho as well, who's not going to be back for this game. For Arsenal, though, it looks a lot lighter on the injuries and suspensions front. We have no suspensions, and the only two players that we know as of right now, unless an injury may have been picked up in training or in that Brighton game that hasn't been noted of yet, is Emil Smith-Rowe. He's expected to return on Boxing Day. Hopefully, he can return and he can add us a major boost to our attack in the second half of the season as soon as we get out of the World Cup, because Emil Smith-Rowe was starting this point last year. Martinelli, who's now going to the World Cup, Martinelli wasn't even starting. He was on the bench because Emil Smith-Rowe was on tremendous form. So hopefully we can get that from Emil Smith-Rowe and get back fit after his groin surgery. And the other is Takahiro Tomiyasu, which is still uncertain. He has been picked for Japan for the World Cup, so that's a good sign there, positive for Arsenal. But, also for Arsenal, we know with Tomiyasu, when he has picked up injuries, he has recurred quite a few times and he's not been able to get over it properly. And given the fact the World Cup is literally next week, it's on my birthday, in fact.
Yeah, Sunday.
Next week, Sunday, yeah. That's the first game is on my birthday. So yeah, hey, don't worry about me. Just worry about the World Cup, Qatar versus Ecuador. So yeah, hopefully he should be back and he should be fit, ready for that there. But I don't think he'll be in for tomorrow's game. So yeah, there's the injuries and team news and the records going into this one. Now, Ed, given the fact that you're at home at the Molineux, I'll let you talk about first and everything surrounding your club. So, for example, Julian Lopetegui, he's going to be taking over after this game.
Yeah.
How you think Wolves, the best case scenario in setting up, and how you think this game's going to go.
Best case scenario is we park the bus, low block, whatever it is that you want to call it. We kind of go back to Nuno days of frustrating people and trying to hit them on the break with the Dharma, Podence and Hwang, all relatively quick. Players up front. Maybe we play sort of a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 kind of hybrid formation. I don't think I was on King's Football Show earlier. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do. My prediction, and I said it then, I'll say it now, is that it will be a very comfortable 2-0 win for Arsenal. If you just look at the way Arsenal control the ball, control the possession, control the tempo of the game, and we just don't have the players, the form, but most importantly, I think for me in this one, we don't have the management and the tactics to set up to beat Arteta and this Arsenal team right now. So best case scenario is we frustrate you for a lot of the game and try and maybe nick a goal on the break with Adama or someone else over the top. But I'm not overly confident, and I think it'll be a comfortable 2-0 win where Arsenal get up early, keep hold of the ball, look solid, Wolves barely knock on the door, and then Arsenal score again, and we'll wait for the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. So most of your hopes, bro, is definitely coming in from, the from post World Cup side of things. But what's your thoughts on Julian Lopetegui being announced? Of course, he rejected you initially because due to personal reasons, not anything to do with Wolves. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good appointment?
Well, he comes with good pedigree. Comes with Europa League win in his locker. He comes with the reputation of being a taskmaster. He comes with the reputation of being someone who organises teams and gets the best out of players that maybe are at the lower end of the ability scale, which is exactly what we need right now. We need form, we need structure, we need tactics, and we need a leader to get behind, because we've not had that since Nuno left. So yeah, I think it's a good appointment. Without him, I think we'd have petered out and potentially, I'm very, very concerned about relegation. Now with a manager of that ilk coming in, I'm confident that we'll have enough to stay up, especially with the thinking that for someone like him to come in, we've waited for him. Clearly, there was conversations being spoken about, can we wait? His father's very ill. Maybe it's allowed time for him to get his father where he needs to be comfortable. Maybe, knock out some arrangements of how much he can visit, how much he can go back. Can he bring his backroom staff in that he needs? And there must be some kind of backing on the field for a manager like him to come in. It must be something that has also been spoken about.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's true. So maybe there is, some investment to be to see in the January window. Which, when we talk about Wolves, and me and Ed was talking about them today, and I'll show you some graphics as well, guys, when we kind of describe how we think this game is going to go, especially for this big one. Like, Wolves' issue has not been their defense, and it hasn't been how they're structured as a team defensively. If you're looking at expected goals against, so Ed brings up a lot of those stats. Expected goals against just basically means how many goals you expected to concede, and Wolves are in the top 7, in fact, in that. So that shows you a lot. Wolves, they're not even really outperforming or underperforming their expected goals against. Yeah, there's been a few more, like that Leicester game, which you went to. You spoke to me and you said, Leicester, right, yeah, they won 4-0, but it wasn't a 4-0 game. Had, 4 shots on target, and then 3 of them were like cracking goals that are low expected goals in terms of the goals scored in that. And then Wolves, but the issue has been not just having a finisher, but creating chances. So, yeah, definitely need to reinforce in that attacking area there. And in kind of to the graphics that me and Ed were showing, I'll kind of explain this. We was talking about this earlier today. So basically, guys, what you're seeing right now, the light blue is where the team we're talking about, so in this case, Wolverhampton Wanderers, control a lot of the ball, where they have a lot of the ball in these areas. Of course, this is going from left to right. So Wolves defending the left goal and the attacking in the right. So we can see there with Wolves, and their issues has been defending in that left channel. Do you think that's more to do with Semedo playing in about 4 a lot this season, playing on that right side? Who's been playing on the right wing a lot, or is that right side of midfield, would you say?
Yeah, I think both of our fullbacks are completely and utterly unprotected by those in front of them. So Podence on the left, not one for tracking back, not really one for getting his foot stuck unless he's annoyed. And on the right-hand side, whoever it's been, whether it's been Adama, whether it's been Guedes, whether it's been Nunes, sort of in some kind of inverted sort of right-sided midfield role, again, doesn't offer Semedo or Johnny any support. So I think our fullbacks are definitely, often it's 2-on-1.
Yeah. 2-on-1, and you can see that 44% and 41% in that left channel going in towards the final third. It's in both thirds of the pitch. It's in the middle third and final third, where Wolves are allowing a lot of possession in that channel, which isn't great. And then especially when you look in the final third and in the second third of the pitch, in that central area, it's been like a hole. You've been playing in like this umbrella shape, don't you think?
The horseshoe.
The horseshoe, exactly. in terms of there's nothing in the middle and you get the balls out wide and you keep spraying them, but you're not having a striker or Jimenez, Raul Jimenez at his prime. You know it more than anyone. Dropping into those deep spaces, Jota making that run in behind him, a little bit like what you see with Spurs and Kane and Son. In fact, with Jota and Jimenez. But since you haven't had Jimenez, and and even when you have had him, he's not been anywhere near the level. It's been clear to see. And Wolves don't play with an attacking midfielder, which is why you sold Morgan Gibbs-White for the money that you did.
Yeah.
Ruben Neves. João Moutinho, excellent as they are, they don't dominate in these spaces there. That's not why they control the game. Yeah. As you can see, they do all right in that little middle part of the pitch in getting the ball there, spraying it out wide, but it's getting in there, and that's why I think you've not really been able to create many chances. But then when we go to Arsenal, which I'll show you now, and this will kind of give you a little bit of perspective if this is the first time you've seen these like sort of graphics on show. We're talking about seeing a lot of that red there for Wolves. For Arsenal, it's looking nice. There's a lot of blue there with only one red spot. And I spoke about this with King earlier as well, and Tifo, they've done a good video on it. Arsenal purposely allows the ball to go into that channel because it's the furthest away from the goal, in fact, out wide. And look at how much blue we dominate, especially on that left side where you see a lot of the Zinchenko or Tini or Tomiyasu, but Zinchenko with Xhaka and Martinelli connecting well in those areas. And then also on the right as well, you can see it with Saka, Ødegaard, and Benjamin White in so much in tandem. And that's why Arsenal have been creating so many chances. And the grey area there, that means it's contested. So, yeah, the grey area, which means that, Arsenal win some, they lose some. Literally, Jesus does a massive job causing the centre-backs and defensive midfielders a nightmare, being a nuisance to control them there. So that's kind of how you see the game being played. And what I'll ask for you there, Ed, because I'm looking at Arsenal when you've shown yours, I'm thinking Xhaka, Zinchenko, and Martinelli. Go eat, go cook on that left-hand side.
Oh, yeah.
But what about you? Like, as you said, you're not going to really have much possession in this game. But what about you in terms of that right side? Who would you play if you was the manager to try and potentially exploit that area?
I mean, it has to be Adama. It has to be someone direct, someone who doesn't necessarily need many around him. Because I think when and if we do attack, if it is going to be like what we've got here with the stats, with the graph show, it's going to be not controlled possession for Wolves. It's going to be possession on the break. It's going to be possession off turnovers. So it's going to need to be Adama, maybe Núñez. People that can run with the ball, people that don't necessarily need people around them to make something happen. And one thing everyone knows about Adama, other than the fact that his crossing and shooting is suspect at times, he doesn't necessarily need anyone around him to cause trouble. A simple chip and run, and he's going to beat his man. It's whether or not he can do anything when he gets onto the end of it. So I think for me, it has to be Adama. It has to be Adama from the start. Because he's the only one that's realistically going to even do anything going back the other way.
Yeah, true. And, Ruben Neves doesn't have any problems or trouble finding players out with a long pass and spraying those balls out wide. As we saw from the graphic as well, the areas that Wolves have a lot of their possession, he's also in those wide areas. So, yeah, it'll be interesting there. But, Ed, let me know your thoughts, guys, if you like that little element that we brought into play. Me and Ed, we try and always find ways to get this a little bit more, tactical based and speak about those little things there. I'm a football sicko. I've said this all the time. Like when I was sent Ed this website, because I only found it like earlier today. The analysts, have a look, people. That's what it is. Oh, I love it. I love watching it because with stats, with me, it's not just all about stats. It's using stats to back your points and back what you see with the eye test. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys, if you're watching afterwards. If you like that little bit of thing that we brought into there, and we might bring them in for the big games, especially. But Ed, what's your prediction for this Wolves versus Arsenal game?
Yeah, I've gone for Wolves to lose 2-0.
Cool. I'll take that there. Yeah, I think Arsenal in this game, I think we will win. I'm confident. I was confident that we'll beat Chelsea, and guess what, guys? We did. So I'm going to go with, a riot, in fact. I'm going to go with 3-0. 3-0 to Arsenal. I think
A lot of that in the chat, I think.
Is there a lot of 3-0s? I will have a look through that there, people. But yeah, as I did say, B&B's words in terms of a riot, I think 3-0 in that one. Steve Davis's last game. There's a lot of players. I mean, the key players that not a lot of them, but the key ones for Wolves, like your Ruben Neves. I think when you're in Wolves' predicament, and you got a World Cup coming up, I think it's easier to take your eye off the ball. Or I don't think Neves, he's a professional. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why he gets to this level. But when the going gets tough in these situations, I think Arsenal will be able to use their quality, use all the mental edge that they have, the confidence going into this game to be able to take it away from Wolves. So I'm going 3-0 to Arsenal in this one. But let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat. And remember to get them in to the comments at the end of this video so Ed can tally them up and get the predictions table. He does an excellent job at that.
Or in the Discord.
Yeah. And guys, if one of you could drop the link to the Discord server, you would be a star. But thank you, people, for tuning in. Let's see what you're saying. 1-1. Well, that will be Wolves at home. So 1-1 draw, says Errol there. I think that's is it because it's United? Is that what it is? Possibly. Or do you actually think that Wolves may be able to grab it because it is at home? 2-0 Arsenal, says Shay. Make the best team win. Sorry, Ed, but Wolves are going to get demolished. 3-0, bro, to the mighty Arsenal. I like the sound of that. 3-0, a nice World Cup winning send off for the boys. And that will mean we'll be top of the league until the very least of the 26th. We'll be top by Christmas, guys. When's the last time Arsenal been top of the league by Christmas? But yes, good point there, Errol. Remember as well, guys, fantasy football, make sure you sort your teams out. I haven't sorted mine out yet. Have you, bro?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, I've got to make a transfer because you have unlimited ones, don't you?
Yeah, we've got unlimited in the World Cup, so it's like another wild card. So yeah, don't hold on to anything. If you've got a transfer, use it.
Yeah, exactly. Fancy World Cup, Moss. If you're thinking of creating anything, definitely go hit Moss up. Go check out his channel as well. I'm sure he'll be down for doing something. I need to think actually. Do you know what? That I'll let you know, Moss, because I think it's going to be difficult, right, to do so because there's so much with the games happening in such quick turnaround. It's hard to keep a track of Premier League, which is once a week technically. But yeah, with the turnaround, so it might be difficult. But guys, if you're into it, if you want to get into these things, definitely check Moss out. B&B said he would be. And appreciate you there, Shay. Thank you for that. Indeed. Let's see. Moss says 2-0 to the Arsenal. Alexander Zinchenko assist to Jesus and Erdegaard assist to Martinelli. And G. Staffy had an Eagles cliff.
I think that must be a Middlesbrough restaurant. That's a
a
local reference, that, Grace.
G. Staffy with their local food, man. I know, yeah. I mean, big up yourself.
It won't be better than number one pizza in West Brom. I'll tell you that much for nothing.
Tell me about it. Exactly that. You got some PFC in there. Decent West Brom in terms of food. Big up Graham in the place. Long time, my brother, but I hope you're keeping well. And he's also got a 3-0 to the Arsenal. Man, you're making Wolves sound like a pub team with that graphic. Hey, the stats don't lie. All right, the stats don't lie.
No, and I do like those stats as well because it backs up the eye test. Because I think the one place that I would say Wolves could have, with the eye test, got at Arsenal is with that left back situation. With just the ins and outs you've had this year makes sense. With Zinchenko being injured, Tomiyasu coming into cover. It's not quite as tight as the rest of the area, so I think that's why that graphic's really good. Because I think it does back up what I've seen in the season so far.
And you know what? That's a good point because when me and Wilf and King, we speak about Gabriel, for example, and when people like to pick on him and say he's the weaker out of the centre back, I think he actually has to do a lot more work than a Saliba on that right side, although what Saliba does is excellent, don't get me wrong. But because the role that Zinchenko plays or a Tomiyasu, they are a lot more further up, and especially when Tierney's in there as well. They're even more advanced in their average position compared to a Benjamin White, who's a bit deeper and a bit closer to that right centre back there. think a lot of responsibilities on Gabriel, which is where teams are trying to attack and he's having to do a lot of defensive actions.
Yeah.
The stats also prove it there. The amount of tackles, blocks, interceptions, aerial duels that Gabriel has to do in defending out in wide positions. You've got to check them out, people. The eye test backs it up. And those are the stats that say it right there. But big up yourself. Aled in here saying the best partnership on YouTube. Hey, big up yourself, my bro. Each and every time. For a split second, I thought that Jamaican top was a wall. Never. Never. I got the orange background for Ed. I mean, it's technically black and gold, but
yeah, it's orange.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, but must don't make me out. Don't make me out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Loving the tactical breakdown. That's class, lads, and brilliant insight to what we can expect from a deeper standpoint for the games. Really glad you like it, Aled. Really appreciate that. And when we did our Arsenal versus Liverpool one, Aled did bring some great tactical images and perspective and even breaking it down. So definitely, I'm glad that you appreciate it, Aled, each and every time. And Wilf himself, I absolutely love this new analysis, boys. Thank you indeed. 2-1 Arsenal for me. Sorry, Ed.
I'll take the goal. I'll take the goal, Aled.
There you go. It's true. They haven't scored many. 8 goals you've scored all season.
Less than Haaland.
I think that's the least in the Premier League. Yes, it is indeed. And it's, yeah, most team, actually every single team apart from Wolves is in double digits in terms of goals. And yeah, but it's not bad in terms of how many he conceded. But yeah, it's not great either. So yeah, there's the link for the Discord if you want to join. So people, check it out indeed. And let's move on into our next game, which has to be Newcastle United versus Chelsea. Huge clash here. Newcastle sitting pretty in third against Chelsea, who are in 7th place. But Ed, hit us with the stats and figures for this one. It's quite interesting. So check it out, people.
Yeah, so it's not great reading for Newcastle, who've only won 3 of the last 15 fixtures against Chelsea, and the last 4 have all been wins for Chelsea. So definitely the form guide between these two teams is in Chelsea's favour. Graham Potter's side, again, forgive me, how did they do in midweek? I missed the League Cup game.
Graham Potter, they lost to Man City by 2-0.
Okay, so that would be 2 losses, 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5. And Newcastle flying high at the moment with unbeaten in 5. I think unbeaten in 6, but I think that's just dropped off there. And third in the table, having an absolutely incredible season.
Interesting for that indeed. The big injury news, of course, no Alexander Isak. Callum Wilson is a slight doubt, in fact. But don't worry, guys, not because of injury, but because of illness. So yeah, rest assured, people. Whenever we say Callum Wilson's a doubt, first thing is, of course, he is because of injury, but no, he is due to illness. Ryan Fraser could return, but most likely will be on the bench anyway. And the same goes for Matt Ritchie, Emil Kraft, and Paul Dummett. They're all out. They won't be on the bench, but they're all out for Newcastle there. For Chelsea, in fact, no N'Golo Kante, not expected to return until February, late February, due to a hamstring surgery that he had in mid-October. Kepa Arrizabalaga, not expected to return until after Christmas due to a foot injury, And the same goes for, of course, the same goes for Ben Chilwell, Carney Chukwuemeka, Wesley Fofana, and Reece James as well. Jorginho is a slight doubt heading into this one, who won't be at the World Cup anyway because of Italy. But yeah, he might be available still to play this game. But Newcastle versus Chelsea. I guess I should go first on this one, being as you had the predictions. What a game this is going to be. Newcastle, by the way, when we was looking at those statistics earlier on, hey, they're 3rd place and they deserve to be in 3rd place in terms of the goals scored, expected goals against. We already know that they got the best defense in the league in that sense. But the pressures, the amount of turnovers they create, Eddie Howe said it, and Newcastle's identity is based on their intensity. They press more than any other team in the league. They are literally joint with Manchester City in terms of the pressing statistics. So they are going to cause Chelsea a whole load of problems, because if you watch the game last week, Arsenal against Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge, the amount of turnovers that Chelsea that Arsenal got. I think that was actually, I think I mentioned this in my match reaction, and the statistics proved it again, because that was the highest turnovers that Chelsea have made in the Premier League. And that was crazy when I saw that stat, and that was great from Arsenal to do that. So yeah, Newcastle, for me, it's got to be a Newcastle win at home. I think, as Ed read out the stats there, the records and in between both of these sides, I think 3 of those wins did come at Newcastle in their last. Newcastle tend to get a good result even with much worse teams, but now the tables have turned. I've got to back a Newcastle win, but that is solely dependent on Callum Wilson. It really is, because he's their focal point. He's their main man. He holds up the play well. He creates a lot of opportunities for Miguel Almiron. So for that reason, right, I've got to go. I've got to go for Newcastle. Has to be Newcastle. And I'm going to go with a 2-0 Newcastle win. What about you, bro? What's your predictions?
Wow. Yeah, I'm going for a tight game. I am going to edge Newcastle, but I can see Chelsea nicking a goal. I think Graham Potter is starting to realise that the mess that this Chelsea team were in, with the high turnover of players, the influx of new players, and I guess he's got to adjust how he does things. Every club he's been at, he's been able to, root and branch it, hasn't he? But with Chelsea, he's probably never going to be able to do that. I'm not going to say that the players aren't having him, because he's an absolutely class coach, and he would have been appointed with the players well and truly knowing that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he adapts. But I'm going to back Newcastle to keep this roll going. I'm going to go with 2-1.
2-1 Newcastle right there. I've gone for 2-0. Let me see what you guys and girls are thinking in the chat right now. Let's have a look. Big up yourself, King, in here as well, saying big up T and Fair Ed. Fair play for going on loan. Yeah, to T. We need to talk about this legal. I'm not going to be, I can't speak on it too much. No comment for now. It's under court investigations. Massive fixture for this top 4. 3-1 Newcastle. Come on the tune, of course. Do you know what? Please. Knocked my mic. Well, I did knock my mic over there. Excuse me.
That's a mic drop before you said anything. That doesn't
exactly.
normally happen.
Literal mic drop. Yeah. Do you know what, Wilf? I do want Newcastle to win because it's Chelsea. Chelsea in the mud, all of that. But maybe I'm starting to get a little bit worried of Newcastle. A little bit worried. If they get in the top 4, they ain't going out of that top 4 for now. I'll tell you that for sure with the players that they can bring in. 3-1 Newcastle. Chris Wood, St. Maximin, Mason Mount for Chelsea. I'm guessing you're saying Almiron there too as well. Big up yourself, Don One, saying, come on, you Gunners. Hope you're keeping good. Ed signing the things. Breaking news for Rizzo Romano. Ed has signed a 3-year deal. Double the salary plus bonus for King's Football Show. Here we go.
I'm interested in the bonus because double zero is still 0. So
exactly, it's true. Hey, just like Marquinhos and Wolves and Arsenal, there was legal proceedings after that. I'm unlike Wolves, I'm not dropping out with this one. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep fighting. We are joint actually with them in terms of goals conceded. You are right. In fact, I think we both conceded 11 now, but Newcastle, it's crazy how good they have been. Indeed. And you know what? I'm going to ask you guys this as well, just before we run through the rest. I asked this in King's show earlier with Ed. Right. What's your thoughts, people? Who's done the better job in the time that they have been there? Eddie Howe, what's it been? A year now? Was it a year?
Yeah, pretty much.
Day? Yeah, a year. What Eddie Howe has done in a year, taking Newcastle from winless, bottom of the league in the relegation zone, to where they are now, or the amount of dirt and the amount of hard graft that Mikel Arteta has done. Who's done the better job right now in their respective time frames? Eddie Howe or Arteta? There you go. Ed already knew it. He went typing in there. Let me know your thoughts and give a reason why. Don't just say Eddie Howe or Arteta. Give me your reason. why over the other. I think it's just an interesting one. It's definitely up to you guys, but let me know your thoughts. It'll be an interesting debate point. 2-1 to the Magpies, says Moss, agreeing with you there. So we got 3-1 Newcastle. They're on fire, and I'm not buying this Chelsea style. I think Wilson will be important, but could see this being a draw. Players being so anxious of picking up an injury for the World Cup definitely could be a factor. It's giving you kind of them like end of season vibes, isn't it? Where, you know, beach and that, if players aren't.
It's never ever been a week away. League football has never been a week away from a major tournament, other than obviously the AFCON that used to happen. When it happened in January. So, but for the World Cup, which has a bit all-encompassing more coverage of the world, it's nuts. I wonder if Callum Wilson's cold or flu, whatever he's got. You know, that little just a quick phone call to Eddie, like, I think I'm going to have to go on the bench, boss. You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. The chest is still a bit wheezy. You know what I mean? Well, throats are still a little bit sore.
Well, I once managed someone who phoned in and spoke like that, even though he said he'd sprained his ankle. It's like, well, if you sprained your ankle, why does it sound like you got the flu?
Exactly.
Pick one or the other. Pick one or the other.
Exactly that there. 1-0 Newcastle, says King there. So everyone backing a Newcastle win. But I think Newcastle on form will see them through for sure indeed. What else have we got here? What else we got? Yeah, Botman didn't make the Netherlands team.
No
it's
surprise.
A big shout. Exactly. He's been quality this season. 2-1 to Newcastle, of course, and more Chelsea tears. Let's see. Already 20 likes. Thank you. Big up yourself, ladies and gents. Listen to King right there. Big up the community. Smash that like button, share, and subscribe. Exactly. Hey, Team Money, all we have to do is keep doing what we are doing. Let the rest worry about us. Indeed. Shay, for this question that I asked you guys, who's done a better job so far? Howe or Arteta? Shay goes Arteta. Moss says it's close. Definitely is. That's a quality question. Indeed, King. Thank you, my bro. I did think it was quite good because I think, you can, for me, like, it's really hard. Toss up. It is a hard one. And whichever you go for, I can definitely see your reasons why. But it'd be nice to hear if there are any different points that we haven't heard of. But Super Mick Arteta, that's what Moss is going to go for. Of course, he's going to back his boy. Mikel Arteta, he did give us the FA Cup, so he's got a trophy to back it. Maybe biased, but Arteta for where he was and the fact that he has improved everything about the club, including the fans, but very close. Definitely, indeed. Arteta's got an FA Cup and a Community Shield, so it's hard to choose Howe. That being said, over the last 12 months, I think Howe has done a tremendous job, which needs commending when you look at the form. Indeed. Yes, indeed. Exactly. Everyone was saying that we would fail. It's true. It is true. There was a lot more. I'd say there was there was definitely pressure on the Eddie Howe job. Don't get me wrong. There was more pressure. But then the counter argument is Eddie Howe literally took a team without a single win to now be third in the Premier League.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Eddie Howe's Arteta had to sweep up a lot of mess, but Eddie Howe had to sweep up after Steve Bruce.
Guys, it's a great point there, Ed. Literally, what was he having at centre back? Jamal Lascelles.
No tactics, no. Yeah, so yeah.
Cole Darlow. Yeah. Crazy. The reason why it's so hard because these guys have probably done the best job in the Premier League so far. You talk about the work that Klopp's done, Pep. The resources, I know Newcastle have a ridiculous amount, but what Eddie Howe has done so far without really tapping into those resources, it's crazy. It is crazy indeed. And both managers have managed to get the fan base back on side. And I think that's a huge attribute to both clubs indeed. What was Wilf? Arteta hands down the better management time. Massive first job with the crap to deal with. Eddie has done a great job too, but Arteta 100%. Says Wilf. Arteta, the Arsenal job, just so much more difficult with the egos he had on high wages. Newcastle, more of a blank slate. Extra respect for the Arteta, clean the slate, then rebuilt it. I get, you know what? I think this would be a very good debate to have a Newcastle fan because, guys, you are spot on and you are right, the one saying Arteta. But maybe because, you know, we're Arsenal fans, we see a lot of these intricacies a little bit more. Whereas a Newcastle fan will be able to tell you to say, for example, like John Joe Shelby, like the attitude, because there was a lot of attitude problems they were having there too. I remember because we've had Adam Pearson on the channel, haven't we, Ed? And he was talking. I remember him talking about before about it being really toxic at the club. The fans as well going crazy, and the new ownership, the optimism that brought, and to do it. And you know, remember, guys, they went for Unai Emery initially, and Eddie Howe. There was a lot of doubters surrounding Eddie Howe too. So yeah, it is an interesting debate for sure. Big up yourself as well, Rich. No worries at all. And hopefully the girls are okay. Big up yourself for popping in and coming in as well. So pizza is doner meat and chips on a pizza. Wow.
What do you lot do up there?
Eddie Howe deserves so much respect and praise. Indeed, definitely so. Definitely crazy.
Chips on a pizza.
It's not a pizza if it has chips on it. That's bread, chips, doner meat, and cheese. Exactly. With a little bit of tomato puree on.
We need a road trip just to find out what the heck is going on up there.
Exactly, indeed. And what I will say as well, go check out Eagle Eye Sweepstake they got doing for the World Cup on Sunday. So go check it out, people, on their channel. Right. We are 45 minutes in, and we've gone through 2 football matches. We've got plenty more to come.
We'll have to speed it up.
We will indeed. We will indeed, people. So get your predictions in, and we will read them out. Let's go into the next game. We'll start off with the first game of the weekend, which is Manchester City against Brentford. We spoke about the league leaders in Arsenal first. It's best to talk about the team holding it, keeping in second place, trying to chase us. Manchester City at home to Brentford. What's the records and stats for this one here?
Yeah, so this is only the 17th game ever between these two teams, and there's only ever been one draw. Man City are on the back of 4 wins out of the last 5, and I think that Brentford win was from like 1930 something. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Just think about what you've seen in the Premier League and their current iterations of their teams. Man City, so found out just that they won in midweek. Was not across the League Cup. I apologise, guys. So realistically, it's still the same. 4 wins and a draw. Brentford's form, huge dip from a few weeks ago, with 3 draws and 2 losses in there as well. So the form guide is very much in favour, if you couldn't have guessed already, in for Manchester City.
There you go, right there, of course. And in terms of the injuries front, for the home side in Manchester City, João Cancelo he's going to be back because that suspension was only a 1-match suspension, even though it was a straight red, because it wasn't violent conduct and because it was last man. So yeah, 1 match, he should return for this game. And Kyle Walker, he's been called up for the England side. There was no return date on him, so let's see how close to fitness he is. Will he even be on the bench for this one? For sure, he has to be on the bench though, Ed, bro. Like,
well, that's what I was saying with Jimenez. There'll be some kind of professional etiquette, which means they need to be available for something.
Exactly that. There, it's true. It has to be. For Brentford, though, their injury list is quite long and stacked indeed. And the only player that's meant to be that could be back, well, is actually going to be back for this one is Vitaly Janelt, after he picked up an adductor injury. The rest in Christopher Ajer, Shandon Baptiste, Pontus Jansson, Thomas Strakosha, Aaron Hickey, and Charlie Good, all going to be out until after the World Cup. And there's some big players in there for that Brentford side. And after reading that, the chances for Brentford and picking up a win here were already quite low. But I think we're all going to go with a Manchester City win. What's your prediction here, Ed?
Yeah, I think quickly Brentford definitely can be direct and can mix it up a bit, but I just think Man City are going to have too much for them. Haaland's more than likely going to start, I'd imagine. KDB will try and get it done early as well, I reckon, so he can go off. Yeah, I'm going to go... Do I go 3-1 or 3-0? I'm going to go 3-0. 3-0 to Manchester City.
3-0 Manchester City.
Maybe an angry Ivan Toney gets a goal, maybe.
I'm thinking a goal, actually. Yeah. So you saying 3-0. I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1 because, like, as I said, once again, Manchester City, not been defensively solid. They do look like they could leak a few goals. I think that's, when we talk about Manchester City not being defensively solid, that's because they are a ridiculous team. And when they show any sign of drop off in any area of the pitch, it kind of gets exasperated a little bit more. And I think Manchester City will concede. Ivan Toney will grab that goal in this game, indeed. And I think they will have chances, Brentford, although they can't stop it with a lot of the injuries at the back. Let's see your thoughts in the chat, people. Question here, which is a question that I asked into King's show earlier on to the panel. Are Arsenal title contenders? For me, yes. If you're top of the league at this stage, you've accumulated the amount of points that we have. There's literally not many sides have had a better start than us. You are in a title race for sure. I'm backing it. What about you, bro?
Yeah, to quote what I said on King's show earlier, league table doesn't lie. Never has lied, never will lie. So yes.
Exactly. Definitely. Agreed. And we got King to say it in the end, didn't we, Ed? Honestly, people.
He didn't need much convincing. He starts like going, I'm not sure. Yes, definitely.
Guys, I recommend you check it out, the preview. Ed did a smashing job on there. And big up to my brother King, who's doing amazing stuff on his channel. Go check it out. But please check that video out after. Yeah. King, in literally a space of 2 seconds, goes, no one's in a title race in October to Arsenal winning the league. I love it. Hey, man, he's out there now. He's put it out there. Let's see what you're saying. And Luke says, in terms of Eddie Howe and Arteta, Howe because to go from relegation zone to challenging top 4, yet maybe even a title race is very impressive. Not that I'm playing down Arteta, but he is done either. Definitely hear those points yourself, Luke, and big up yourself each and every time for that one. And you know what? It's hard to disagree. It is hard to disagree indeed. In terms of predictions, though, Shay has gone for 3-2 Manchester City win. Jack Grealish, Haaland, and Phil Foden. All for the England boys, entering some good form there. Graham says Brentford to enter the 8-1-1 formation. Definitely see that happening. And yeah, you're better qualified to talk on Brentford.
Yes,
yes, indeed. And given the fact that a lot of your family are Brentford fans, the missus and everyone, so yeah, man, definitely, indeed. Let's see, 3-1. King, great minds think alike. 3-1. I do think they will concede, but Man City, inevitable. The inevitable force that they are. 2-0 Manchester City. City to make hard work of it, though. 2-2. B&B, please. Could be letting the heart roll ahead on this one. Indeed. Hey, I'm at least you're honest about it, and I respect it. Respect it indeed. Arsenal contenders, but think City's still heavy favourites. Think you're fair enough to say that as well, Phil. Definitely from the daddy and the don. Definitely, I think you are right to say that. But yeah, I agree with you there. I kind of agree with you on both, actually, that they are favourites as well. Yes, Ed was amazing. One of the best streams on my channel. I enjoyed watching it. Indeed. 5-1 City. Wow, that's a big scoreline right there. We'll move on into our next game, which is going to be, let's do Tottenham versus Leeds. I say that's a big one because that's going to be.
Still I was on.
Hey, see, great minds think alike. We honestly, when we pick these games, we choose like the first game and the second game, and then the rest is just based on how we're feeling. Yeah, so yeah, we'll do Tottenham versus Leeds. Tottenham not in great form. I'll tell you about their League Cup game. They played their strongest team, Ed. Lost 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. Harry Kane played. That caused a lot of uproar on Twitter.
Why is Harry Kane playing?
Exactly.
I didn't know. I told you I'm not across this. What's he trying to do? You already won the Euros. Get lost.
Yeah. Harry
so
Kane.
Add another loss onto that. And yeah, Conte, your hair's stupid. So two losses, 2 wins, and a draw for that man with the silly hair. Can't believe he played Kane. I'm seething about that now. And for the team that played, they lost to the mighty Wolverhampton Wanderers and a wonderful goal by Boubacar Traoré. But they did play all of their kids and Jack Harrison. So don't read too much into that, guys. But they will be on the back of 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5 games. And the form just quickly for that is on the bottom. it's 3 wins for Spurs and 2 wins for Leeds in the last 5.
And in terms of the injury status for a lot of these players, 3 players is Christian Romero, Heung-min Son, and Ryan Sessegnon. For Christian Romero, been called up for the side as well. Maybe back for this one, might not really be pushed if they're that close to injury. And the same goes for Son as well, who had surgery. It went successfully, has been picked for his national side. I think it's a similar injury to what Kevin De Bruyne picked up in the Champions League final from Rudiger, and it did affect De Bruyne's performance. In fact, it's an orbital fracture. So I kind of think it might have the same effect as Son as well, as he's rushing himself as expected. You know, when your Son in Korea, like that's literally, he's like David Beckham to them. Like, you know, what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's Jimenez from Mexico, isn't it? It's the talisman.
Exactly that.
Harry Kane for England, which is why he shouldn't have been playing in the midweek.
Exactly that right there. Ryan Sessegnon picked up a muscular injury. He's going to be out for this one too. For Leeds, a lot of players out on that injury list. And the players that are ruled out, Adam Forshaw, Matthias Klick, Joel Gelhardt, Patrick Bamford, Luis Sinisterra, and Stuart Dallas. And Jack Harrison, who picked up an injury in this game against Wolves as well. He's going to have a late fitness test, and he might be fit enough to play. But yeah, quite a few injuries there for Leeds going into this one. I'm sure they'll be glad for the break indeed. In terms of how I think this game is going to go, it's difficult, man. It really is. Looking at that injury list, you know, I'm leaning towards Spurs, but I really do think it's not. Spurs aren't having a great time of it. I'm going to go with, if Kane is fatigued. By the way, imagine this is even worse. It's going to make you even more angry. He played Harry Kane. Conte said after the game, Harry Kane is fatigued. Right. He said he's suffering with fatigue. Yeah. So why are you playing him against Nottingham Forest in the Carabao Cup? And guess what? It's funny anyway. They're still lost. So
yeah, but you know why he's doing it. Conte, he's not doing it because of any kind of ill feeling. He needs Spurs to play well, because I don't think they played well all season. I said it last week to Wilf. I'm racking my brain still. They are where they are. They're doing very well. Like I said, the league table doesn't lie, but I don't get it. They don't seem to be performing, and yet they are where they are. I think that's another reason why I'm saying about this league this year being really entertaining and crazy, because every week I scratch my head and go, Spurs look nothing like what they should look like with some of those players they've got, but they are fourth. So
exactly, it's true. And if you can see, you know, let's say, you know, for Leeds, if they can put a performance that they put at Anfield, certainly we can get the win. Definitely. Spurs awful in the first half against Liverpool, much better in the second. Spurs are really Jekyll and Hyde. Because Leeds, I don't have faith in them taking a lot of their chances. I'm going to edge a Spurs win, you know. I'm going to go 2-1 to Spurs. I did say that against, I think, who was it against? And they still lost? I'm hoping so. But I think I'm going to go with a Spurs 2-1 win. Yeah, in this one. What about you, bro?
I'm going to go for a draw, you know. I'm going to go 2-2. Leeds let goals in, but Leeds seem to be, at the minute, eking goals out as well. So I'm going to go 2-2. And if Harry Kane is fatigued, that probably means that all the other players that play every week will be also a bit tired. Leeds, on the back of these sort of crazy last 2 games, maybe rolling it in with Jesse Marsh to secure another point before everyone goes and has their World Cup. I'm going to go 2-2, and that Harry Kane doesn't get injured.
Yeah. Just stay fit, Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah, look after yourself. Forget Spurs. Look after yourself.
Trust me, Spurs aren't looking after you, so you look after yourself, Kane. Right? They've never even given you a trophy, for goodness sakes. So, yeah, because we'll talk about England as well. Because just shortly, briefly, he looked shattered in the Euros as well, didn't he? At the start, he kind of picked it up a bit towards the end, but like he looked like he was running through mud.
Yeah, because the load he carries for both Spurs and for England is immense.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? So I'm hoping he'll be all right. 3-0 to Spurs, says Shay in this one. Spurs versus Leeds. Yeah, Spuds 2-2. Wilf is going with. See, I'm not racist. But big up Mama G in here as well. Hope you're keeping good. Nice seeing you in here, Mama G. And thanks for the top, Mama G, indeed. Pepe had his pen saved as well. Oh, Nice playing right now. Gonna put my predictions in the comments after, which is what you guys should be doing. G Staffy, love that.
And there's a chance to beat Paxton this week because he's busy.
Yeah, if you can beat Paxton, I know. By the time we're finished, Paxton might be finished from being busy with the rate we're going at. But Moss goes for a 1-1 draw. Agreeing with you, Ed, in terms of the draw, but different scoreline there. Spurs heading for fourth. Spurs in fourth, heading to fifth by the end of the season, says Wilf. Phil says Conte seems happy to try and win ugly, but played well when going behind. It's true. Why not just go for it instead of being tepid? It isn't working. Indeed, definitely agree with that negative mindset. You know, Conte has that negative mindset. A certain manager who manages England gets a lot of that as well, you know, but both are spoken about in different terms. But yeah, I'm joking. I'm not comparing Southgate to Conte, but in terms of their style of play, I don't think it's far at all in how they win games. But one has won a league and that. Yeah, sorry, we'll get into that. I'm sorry, I just keep itching towards the World Cup. Richarlison.
There's one more game week to get through to.
Exactly. Richarlison and Kulusevski is back. Richarlison, Leeds will press Spurs man on to man, but I think Spurs 2-1 win. Yeah, that's the scoreline I've gone with, unfortunately, but hope they lose. Definitely hope so indeed. And yet, Richarlison and Kulusevski being back will be massive pluses for them indeed. Top six, will Spurs stay in it? Newcastle, Brighton seem better. You know what? It's a good question here, Moss, because I would say yes, they'll stay in it because of basically for Newcastle and Brighton. I think, especially for Newcastle's case, when we get towards that end part of the season, when they've got a lot of games in their legs, I think that it might tell its tale a little bit with the intensity that they play at. A lot of more injuries may get picked up. You know, we suffered with it. We play at a high intensity. When we had our players fit, we were one of the best teams in the league. But last season, we didn't have the squad depth, and Newcastle don't have it either. Whereas I say Spurs, at least they do. So I'd say that's the edge they have over those. Do you agree with me, Ed, or do you still?
Yeah, I do. And there's some players in there that can drag out games out of nothing. You know, Harry Kane can, nick you a goal here and there that in games that you're not in. Son, if he ever comes back into form, can go through one of those purple patches he has. Very streaky player. But if he goes on a run of 3 or 4 games and bangs 9 goals, which he's very capable of doing, all of a sudden that's like 12 points out of 15, for example. So yes, there's some big game players and a little bit more know-how.
Exactly that. Spurs' best chance of a trophy was exactly, and they failed again miserably. Sound like I'm untrapped again. Mama G, glad you're back safe and sound. Exactly that, indeed. She is back safe and sound. Big up Mama G, indeed. Liverpool versus Southampton. Big up my brother Ed for this one right here. We'll talk about this one at Anfield. Liverpool's last game. A lot of omissions in their squad for their players in their international teams. A certain Roberto Firmino, a certain Thiago Alcantara. But how will they react against Southampton? Before we get into that, get your predictions in, and Ed will read out the records and stats.
Yeah, so Liverpool, Southampton. Liverpool against the Liverpool reserve team, as it has been in the past, hasn't it? With 4 wins out of the last 5 for Liverpool against Southampton, with 1 win for Southampton. Liverpool on the back of 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5 games. And for Southampton, they're on the back of 2 draws, 2 losses and a win. The week before last, we said with our chest that Gerrard was gone, and he did. Last week, me and Wilf said with our chest, if Southampton lose, Ralph's gone. Both times are right. They've got their new manager in now, Nathan Jones, haven't they, from Luton. Very highly rated championship manager. Let's see how he does. I guess he's in charge for this game.
Interesting. And in terms of Liverpool, in terms of their injuries, of course, no Luis Diaz, no Arthur Melo. no Diogo Jota, as they are out and not expected to return until after the World Cup. So some doubts that they may have that may return is Naby Keita, Joel Matip and James Milner. Naby Keita, he's been out for a long time with that thigh injury. He may return for this game. Joel Matip is back in training, but after his injury in his lower part of his leg, he may return for this game. He'll be a big plus for Liverpool going into the second half of the season, and maybe the break will do him some good to get himself fully recovered and try and get fit during those friendlies that a lot of clubs are having. Are you having any friendlies during the World Cup, Ed?
Yeah, we've got a couple against Portuguese teams. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, yeah. Surprise, indeed. James Milner, he did have concussion, but he's expected to be back for this game here. And then for Southampton on the injury front, not many players, but there are a lot of right backs in Valentino Livramento, Kyle Walker-Peters, and Juan Larios, who are all out for the Saints and won't be available for Nathan Jones. Ed, my turn to go first, isn't it? I think was it yours?
I can't remember. I think it might be mine.
I think it is yours. Yeah. How do you see this game going at Anfield? Do you think Liverpool are gonna have a point to prove with a lot of their players being out of the World Cup and a lot of anger and try and put in a good performance in front of their home fans?
Yeah, I think this has to be Liverpool players will probably feel they've got to give their Anfield faithful, Jurgen Klopp. Everyone needs something out of this, and Southampton are a team that have been so poor this season. Even Wolves have beat them. So yeah, I think like you said, there are some players who've been shunned by their this World Cup. You've got other players such as Trent who have got this horrible media narrative against them that maybe wants one more chance to shut the World Cup. I see Liverpool having too much for Southampton here. I think it's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire. I'm going to actually go for a big result. I'm going to go for 5-0 in this one.
Wow. Yeah, big performance there. For me, I am going to go with the Liverpool win. You know what? I was thinking 2-0, but you know what? I'm not even going to lie. You've kind of swayed me with how much you've gone for it. I'm going to go 3-0. If it ends 2-0 now, it's my fault.
But it's worked.
Yeah. I've gone 3-0, which literally is what Wilf has just put in the chat right there. 3-0. I think they're getting back on track. Excellent future for Liverpool. 3-2 to Liverpool, conceding a lot of goals, but Mo Salah with a hat-trick. Kings also gone for a 3-2 win as well. Interesting. 3-0. So, yeah. I think you've inspired a lot of people. That's what I'll say, Ed, by going big. But yeah, you definitely have inspired me. Will Nathan Jones be bringing his banana?
Bananarama. You are so young. That's such a deep cut, that Wilf. My goodness me. That's a deep cut. It's a song of theirs from like the late 80s. I was barely born. That's a deep cut, that Wilf. Bananarama. You've never heard of Bananarama?
Nah.
Wilf, come back. Come back, Wilf.
Oh, man. There you go, right there.
I know. Moss, this is on me. In the new year, I'll make sure we've got sort of GDPR-worthy top 10 of the FPL, because obviously people's real names are on there. I've not got around to getting on top of that yet, but I will in the new year. But you are right. That is the top 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not in it, so who cares?
Mama G is. You know what I mean? So fair play, Mama G.
Yeah, Mama G's in it. And when I last spoke to her and said, you're doing really well this year in the FPL, she asked what FPL was. So, yeah.
You know what it is? I remember, right? She picks her captains, all right. I'll tell you that. That's all she picks, and the rest is me. I'll hold my hands up. Yeah. So fair play, Mama G, for picking your captains right there. But yeah, catch you later as well, Shay. But Moss goes with 2-0 Liverpool, Salah and Nunez just before the World Cup. Nunez might be entering some good form. Exactly. Wilf is 118, so he knows every song.
I knew it too, so I must be close to him then.
Exactly that. Yeah. Wilf is a DJ chef, a master footballer, FPL star.
Jack of all.
Exactly. He can put that on his CV, and it must indeed. We'll move on into the next game. And in fact, Ed, go take it away. I'm thinking Fulham Man United. Was that what you were thinking there?
Yeah, why not?
Let's go Fulham versus Manchester United, which
Yeah,
is the last
Fulham.
game.
Yeah, last game of the weekend, last game before the World Cup, right?
Yeah, it is indeed.
So Man United have the number over Fulham throughout the whole of history. They've won 52 of the 87 games against Fulham, and Fulham haven't won since 2019. So 2009, sorry. So we're going a long way back. Fulham versus Man United. Last 5 meetings have been 3 wins for Man United and 2 draws. And if we look at the form of both teams very quickly, Fulham. They're on the back of 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, and sit 9th, I believe, in the table. Man United, I know they beat Villa. Always look out to make sure Villa lose. So they're on the back of 4 wins and a loss, including that win against Villa in the League Cup.
And in terms of the injuries for Fulham, they've got quite an extensive list as well. Of course, no Manor Solomon for them. No Niskans Cabano, who's got an Achilles injury. In fact, he ruptured his Achilles in training. That's awful, that is. It's always a horrible sight to see. And due to suspension, Harrison Reed and Kenny Tete are going to be out until after the World Cup, with all picking up 5 yellow cards. And another player that picked up 5 yellow cards but will return for this game was Bobby De Cordova Reed, who does represent, Jamaica. This isn't the official Jamaica national team shirt. It's just a Jamaica football top from Jamaica. But yeah, Alexander Mitrovic, who is a doubt, touch and go whether he'll return for this one, but he's also called up for the national side. So maybe once again, one of them, Ed, as he said, the professional bench.
He's just feeling whatever it is. It's got a little tweak, boss. Leave me out, Mr. Silva. Leave me out.
Exactly. I've done enough already. Give me one game. Diogo Dalot, who is suspended for this one, and he won't return until after until the Premier League, until after the World Cup. Rafael Varane is out with an injury. Was he picked actually? He wasn't he?
Yes,
he was picked for the World Cup. Yeah.
If you're not part of the Discord, Paxton was doing a great job dropping in every single squad.
What a man indeed, Pax. Anthony, who has also been out with an injury, he could return for this one. Another, boss. And the boss won't be working for Jadon Sancho because he's not in the squad for England. So yeah, he's expected to return for this one too. Ronaldo out with illness. Another one.
on his way to Qatar is where he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he won't fly with everyone else, will he?
Do you know what he's got? He's got that World Cup fever. Yeah, and the rest, those are the injuries and doubts going into this one there. A lot of those players I mentioned, I don't expect them to play this weekend. But Ed, I just thought of this one out of the blue. Fulham and Man United, it's a well-trodden path between players. Can you name me 2 players in 5 seconds who have played for Fulham and Man United? Off you go.
Louis Saha and Van der Sar.
Oh, you're lucky. Oh, there's another one. That's a good one. He is literally on 0. Guys, name me all of them that you can think of in the chat. Little trivia one for you. Don't forget Dimitar Berbatov.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, Dimitar Berbatov. Is there another one? There's got to be. If you can think of any more other than Berbatov, Zaha, and Van der Sar, let me know.
And Louis Saha.
Yeah, Zaha. Yeah, that's what I meant, not Zaha. But yeah, guys, let me know in the chat right there. As me and Ed will give our predictions. You know what? It really is dependent on Mitrovic.
That one too, George Best.
Did he? I didn't know.
Yeah. He played for Fulham before he went over to America.
Oh, wow, fair play. Big up yourself, Phil, man. Football encyclopedia, you are. Don't ask what Jack Grealish what that is. But I'm going to go for a draw in this one. I am going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But if there is going to be a winner, I would say Man United. But yeah, I'm going to go for a draw. What about you, bro?
Yeah, no Mitro, no goals for me for Fulham. I'm going 2-0 Man United.
2-0. Interesting one right there. Let's see what you're saying. Is there a reason why that you'd go for that?
I just think I'd go with the stats, go with what's going on right now. Man United in slightly better form. Fulham without Mitro are not the same up front. I'm just gonna. They played well last week against Man City, but again, looked slightly toothless up front. And Man United, the tide seems to be changing a little bit for me. I think Ten Hag's rebuild is well on its way now, and also no Ronaldo means that they'll probably play better.
Definitely, indeed. He returned for the game against Aston Villa, and it wasn't great. It was a good evening for Villa. 2-1 Fulham. Sorry, I had to put that in there, didn't I, bro? 2-1 Fulham. Think a shock is on here. Indeed. Can see that. King goes for a 2-0 Man United win. 1-0 Man United. Martial, he will start. He played 65 minutes against Aston Villa, so he's fit enough to start. It's just whether Ten Hag will want to risk him in such a short space of time, quick turnaround. But yeah, Man United, when he starts for them, he's much better in terms of the system and how they want to play. But I don't know if he will. Mitrovic might not play. That changes things. 2-0 Manchester United win. Definitely agree with you. That does change a lot of things. That's why I didn't go for a Fulham win in the end. Right there. And Mitrovic, Serbia, an early upset. Moss, he's got his prediction right there. Early, he's got him in early for Serbia to upset Brazil by 2-1. But we'll move on into the next game now. Ed, of the look of the draw, I'll let you decide this one.
Okie dokie, let's go with Mr. Good Evening himself. Let's go with Brighton versus Villa. Last 5 meetings between these two teams are 2 wins for Villa, a win for Brighton, and 2 draws. And this is only the 30th time that these two teams have ever met as well. Interestingly, or not interestingly, if you're not interested in those things. Brighton's form, 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw. And I think that would obviously now include another win that I didn't know about. And for Villa, of course, that they do have 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5, but of course are on the back of that loss in the League Cup against Man United.
Do you know what? we'll do? Chuck in another game. Do another claret and blue team, claret and blue versus another blue and white team, which is West Ham United versus. Hey, he's worked it out. He's on the brains today.
Yeah, so West Ham versus Leicester doesn't read bad for West Ham fans. We haven't got any yet in the TTF, unless I'm wrong. So get involved if you're not. A draw, 3 wins, and just a 1 win for Leicester in the last 5. And if we look at the form of both teams, I think from memory, Leicester's is very good. 4 wins and just 1 loss in there. And for West Ham, 3 losses and 2 wins. So very similar in the form. So and relatively close in the real table as well. What, 14th and 15th? Yeah, same points.
Yeah, exactly that there. So, guys, have a look at this right now. Before you put your predictions in, I'll give you the injuries for Brighton and Villa. So, Yakamada is out, and he's the only injured out for Brighton. So that's massive right there. And then for Aston Villa, for them, Philippe Coutinho, he's out. Yeah, I forgot about him, actually. I forgot he played for Villa. He's been out for a while. Thigh injury, so he's not expected to play. And, of course, no Diego Carlos. Not a lot of injuries there. But for West Ham, up against Leicester, they don't have many injuries either. Just 2 of their left wing backs in Maxwell Cornet and Emerson Palmieri, who could return for this one and could add a backup option for this game, as West Ham are also out of the Carabao Cup as well. Leicester, in fact, sad news for James Justin, which, you probably would have said about, 2 years ago. He had a massive opportunity to make it into the World Cup, but he's sadly going to be out for the rest of the season. Yeah.
It's on me as well. Him and Kepa, both brought into my fantasy team, both get injured.
Oh man, you're lucky you got the limited transfers coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame for James Justin. And you know what? He seemed like he would have been a great option for Southgate as well, being able to play on both sides. We kind of lack, Kieran Trippier is a massive asset for that reason. Ricardo Pereira also going to be out, as well as Kaglar Sionchu and Ryan Bertrand. So, predictions for both of these games. We'll go with Brighton and Hove Albion versus Aston Villa first. Ed, is this your turn to go first? I think
it is. And I'm going goals because I think both teams like to score goals now and not necessarily keep them out with current form, and De Zerbi with Brighton slightly less solid at the back. I'm going to go with 2-2. I'm going goals.
2-2 right there. And I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go with Brighton to do it, A 2-2 draw, by the way. It is not a bad result to go for when Unai Emery's in charge.
No.
As Arsenal fans, we know that. How many 2-2 draws we had there. But I'm going to go Brighton to win it. I'm going to say 2-1 for this one here. And then for the West Ham United versus Leicester City game, it's quite an interesting one, in fact, because, West Ham had a poor start to the season, picked it up there. And you can say the exact same for Leicester, but that's happened more within recent weeks. James Maddison, he will be on the plane, of course. We'll talk about, that. But I think he'll still have a point to prove. And I'm going to go with a Leicester win, I just see Leicester edging it. The form that they're in, 2-1 Leicester.
Oh, don't! I wrote down 2-1, but it's your turn. I'm going 2-1 anyway, so I'd already written it down. 2-1 Leicester for exact same reasons you said. I think Graham, might have put it in the comments. I think the role in that form that they're on at the moment, only that loss to Man City in their form. 2-1. 2-1.
Exactly. Tielemans, also, by the way, Wilf. I know you're not excited by this, but it looks like Tielemans could be heading to Arsenal in January. But they said at the very latest, Leicester don't want to sell in January, but Arsenal are ready for a free transfer in the summer anyway. Interesting.
You'll get a volley from 30 yards.
At least one in the season. He's doing it once a month at the moment. They're right easy with that. But let's see your predictions in the chat. So we've got 2-1 to Brighton, De Zerbi over Emery right there, and 2-1 to the Hammers, Antonio and Bowen versus Barnes. Indeed. 2-1 Brighton as well. Burst the bubble for Villa. That Leicester loss was a 1-0 loss to City, exactly as Ed brought this up earlier. So they are on form and can see them nicking it as it's gone for a 2-1 Leicester win in that game there. And then a 2-2 draw against Brighton. So, with Brighton and Villa. So Ed definitely agrees with those scores. Wolves gone for a 1-1 draw in this one here in the West Ham Leicester game. And then Brighton 2, Aston Villa 1. And then 3-1 Leicester away to West Ham. Please get Neves. Exactly that. And I would take to you. Oh man, I'm loving the banter in the chat, guys. Keep it up, keep it coming. Don't want Neves, he's no fun. Celebration police.
Oh, come on, Moss. It's okay. It was in the heat of the moment and he was really upset about what happened. He loves celebrating, don't worry. Exactly. And you would love him within 5 minutes in an Arsenal shirt. Don't pretend otherwise.
He's quality. Mossy is quality, man. Like, he's wonderful to watch. Once again, I'm gonna have the pleasure of seeing him tomorrow, man.
Yes.
And, honestly, he really is, guys. He really is a pleasure to watch. Kick a football. It sounds weird, but how he kicks a ball, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good.
It does.
How did I describe him earlier to you two? What was it I said? I can't remember what I said now, but I can't remember now what it was. Oh, no, it wasn't about that. It was about something else. Maybe something we can talk about in the England chat.
Oh, yeah, we'll get about that in the England, yeah, for sure. And we'll group these games together as well so we can leave a little bit more time to talk about the World Cup chat and England and so forth. But we've got Bournemouth versus Everton and final one, which is Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. But Ed, hit us with whichever one you want to go with first.
Yeah, we'll start with Bournemouth versus Everton. Last 5 meetings have 3 wins for Bournemouth, 1 win for Everton and 1 draw. And again, very weird one. This is only the 16th ever time these 2 teams have ever met as well. Just shows you the gulf in where the teams have been in their history. Bournemouth with 4 losses and just 1 win under Gary O'Neill recently after his better start. And Everton, maybe this is the game with the 2 teams with the 2 worst forms going into it, with 3 losses, 1 draw and a win. And then if we look at the other game, which was Forest versus Crystal Palace, 2 draws, 2 wins and a loss. And I think this is their first Premier League meeting since 1995, TC. You weren't even alive when these 2 teams in the top flight. And if we look at Forest's form, so that obviously would include a win against Harry Kane for some reason. So he should be in there. So it should be 2 draws, 2 wins, and a loss from that Spurs game. And for Palace, I think recently you've had a real upturn in form, sit nicely in 10th place with 3 wins, a loss, and a draw. And Patrick Vieira doing a comfortable job again this year.
There you go, right there. And in terms of injuries and suspensions for Bournemouth and Everton, I guess this has kind of been the reason why there's been a downturn in form for both sides, because, Chris Mepham is suspended for this one. That's a big loss for them. Neto in goal, as Wilf mentioned before, he's been excellent for them this season, and he's not going to play before the World Cup. He's been outstanding. He's been having his Jose Sarr season, which Sarr had last season. He's been phenomenal. And the same goes for Lloyd Kelly as well. Guys, I said it before. I said it at the start of the season, right? Lloyd Kelly is a baller. Yeah, he's the only player I would take at Arsenal from Bournemouth, and honestly, I still like the look of him now, but he's out until after the World Cup. David Brooks also expected to return until after the World Cup. He picked up a thigh injury. Hopefully we get to see him back playing football on a consistent basis, but a player that might be returning is Jordan Zamora, the Zimbabwean left back for Bournemouth. So for Everton now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin out, of course, and Josh Townsend.
Of course he is.
Out. Exactly that. But players that are on the edge and could return is Idrissa Gana Gueye, who's been called up as well for the Senegalese national side. Amadou Onana, who's also been called up for the Belgium side. He's going to expect to be returning. And this person hasn't been called up. And I'm glad, Mason Holgate. But yeah, sorry if you're watching, Mason.
I wondered where you were going with that. I was like, who is he talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
No offense, Mason. Feel free to come on and we'll interview you. But, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's Mason Holgate interview out the window. He had a small issue with his knee. And he's expected touch and go whether he'll return for this one here. So for the last game as well, in terms of injuries that we're going to talk about, is Nottingham Forest against Crystal Palace. Forest, it's a lot. Oro Mangala picked up, imagine, they lost to 10 men as well. So he's been suspended after his 2 yellow cards. Omar Richards after the World Cup, which is the same as Harry Toffolo, Julian Biancone, and Musa Niakate. But we may receive.
Sorry to interrupt. I've just realised we've got the World Cup coming up. Tariq Ray is going to go.
You can't wait for that to watch alongst people.
Just please be careful whenever we do a South Korea game or any games like that where it might not be culturally appropriate. Just be careful.
Yeah, Kim Min Jae. Yeah. I can't wait for it. Scott McKenna is also going to be out, but he actually touch and go whether he may return, and it's the same with Sheku Kiate as well. So forgot to do Crystal Palace last. Apologies there, Crystal Palace. Injuries, Christopher Richards, James MacArthur are out, and Odson Edward may return, so that could be a good plus for Palace. But Ed, your prediction for Bournemouth versus Everton?
I've written both of my predictions down for this one. So again, if we match, we match. I've gone for Everton to sneak it 1-0. Frank Lampard to get something before the World Cup.
I'm going to go opposite with you. I'm going to go on Bournemouth 1-0 win. I'm going to say they're going to do it at home, and it's not going to be great. I think, I don't think Lampard's done a bad job with Everton, but I think he's still kind of struggling at the moment.
Yes, they're in a rut. They are in a rut. And
yeah, it's hard. And this is probably one thing I'd say about Lampard. I don't think he can. I'm not sure he hasn't done well when he hits that rut previously at Chelsea, and that's the evidence we have to go by. And I watched his interview after the game, and it was the most basic trash interview I've ever seen. Honestly, check it out. I can't even remember some of the things he was saying. It was like talking like he just didn't explain anything in any like tactical sense at all. Just said, we weren't good enough or something like that. And it was like, honestly, don't check it out. In fact, it was trash. But we'll move on. The prediction: Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. I think this is an interesting one. Nottingham Forest, they are slowly improving in terms of their performance, and I'm expecting after the World Cup they're going to be a lot better, because let's be honest, guys, this is the first pre-season thing they're going to really have. The first half of the season has kind of been their pre-season, and then they're going to have more little friendlies to work out, little formations and things that Steve Cooper want to play, because any of them playing in the World Cup. Remo Freuler, I know he's there with Switzerland. But apart from that, I don't think there is any. Well, Brennan Johnson, of course, he'll be with Wales. But yeah, it's not great. So there's not many. So that's a plus side for them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with the Forest win. I'm sorry, Eagle-Eyed fans. I'm sorry. I know you guys have been in good form of late as well. But I'm going to say Forest are going to nick it at home and try and give their fans something to believe in post-World Cup. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 Forest win.
I don't know if my heart's leading my head, because I don't want Forest to be above us and be bottom at Christmas. So I've gone for Palace to win 2-1. Because imagine if my team were bottom at Christmas. We're going back to mid-2000s days when I was we were such a bad side.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh,
but doesn't
I hadn't even thought about that until we just discussed it. Now I feel physically sick thinking we might be bottom at Christmas.
But doesn't that tell you, Ed, like the fact that you guys can be bottom at Christmas, like how good the Premier League is, like the level.
Yes.
Whereas you would have dreamed to have players like Ruben Neves, João Martinez, and the likes of them at Wolves.
Yeah, exactly.
Mateus Nunes.
So our midfield is better than, I would say, 70% of the Premier League. It's just we have no one up front, like we showed you earlier.
Exactly that. But yeah, so I'm sorry, Ed. I think you will be bottom at Christmas, and I've gone for a Forest win right there. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. And we have got Crystal Palace fans in here. We've got, Phil, who's a Crystal Palace fan. He's gone with draws in both games. 0-0 in that Bournemouth-Everton one, and a 1-1 draw in Forest Palace, which is also Bournemouth-Everton sounds dull as dishwater, says Wilf, and going to be a 1-1 draw. Keep think Palace are going to come good, but stuttering. That said, 3-1 Palace. Yep. Back, you got to go Sainsbury's, haven't you, bro?
Yeah, exactly. My man just wants to get his Christmas shopping from Sainsbury's. That's all that is.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't have your last result before Christmas being a Palace loss. With the amount of in-Forest injuries, is that why they brought 57 players? I think it is. They shouldn't complain about squad depth, that's for sure. And Moss has said right here, Forest 1-0 or 2-1 Palace. Which one are you going to go for, Moss? 2-1 Johnson and Gibbs White versus Zaha. Interesting there. So he's gone with a Forest win by the looks of it. So we're going to go Aaron Ramsey. I think is he there? Is he there? I think.
Yeah, of course he will be.
Yeah.
Who else are going to pick?
Trust me. And Luke says right there, it's mad that a team with Neves and Neto could be bottom at Christmas.
I mean, Neves, Sarr, Nunes, Martinho. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you take it on paper, Jimenez shouldn't be anywhere near it as well. Podence, international. Yeah, it's nuts.
Exactly that. 2-0 Palace, CP, the 2-0 Crystal Palace, their defence is good. It is indeed with Gay and Anderson. Do agree with you there. But guys, we've wrapped up the Premier League preview show. We've saved some time to talk about England. So guys, and not just England, the World Cup chat, but we have to talk about England first. And this squad that was announced. Right. Ed, some big decisions made by Gareth Southgate. As I'm looking through at it, I'm going to ask you this question right now. Are you happy with the squad he has picked?
Yes. I am.
Why? Want to explain? Because there's a lot of people that would disagree with you about that. A lot.
I know, but a lot of people are wrong. So it's a team, it's a squad that's balanced. It's a squad that doesn't have too many mavericks that are going to upset the apple cart. It's a squad of players that the manager can trust. I see that as a positive personally. You have one shot at most games in the World Cup. You can't have a squad full of players that are going to not turn up for games. You can't have too many streaky players. There aren't that many players that I feel it's egregious that they left him out. I would have taken Tony, personally. But I think the writing was on the wall with him when he didn't play in the warm-up games, not the warm-up games, the Nation League games. And then obviously the controversy we won't talk about because we don't know enough about it, that potentially has made it too difficult. That's really useful. Those goalkeepers pick themselves. We argued, both of us, over teams whilst we're working, honest, about the only player that I wouldn't have picked is Harry Maguire, personally. And I only wouldn't have picked him because I'm just worried about a player with the narrative that's against him at the minute, the backlash that he's getting at the moment, and him being so out of form. I'm worried that that might be too much for him in a World Cup. One slight mistake and it's all over for him. But I also see the converse side of it. If you don't pick him, does that crush him completely as well in the future? So I'm overall happy with it. What about yourself?
Yeah, this is me, right? And I definitely agree. I am happy with it. And I'll give you my reasons why, because, you know, there's a lot of talk, especially around Maguire, Kyle Walker and Calvin Phillips. And that's where a lot of the, you know, the unhappiness has come in. And Connor Cody as well. I think he's another one. And then most of the other players people are happy with. Right. Goalkeepers, they're a shoe-in. Pickford, Pope, Ramsdale, of course. Dean Henderson, not making it anywhere near. Pickford's been excellent for Everton in the past, 18 months, I would say, overall. Been fantastic. Nick
And
Pope.
for England.
Yeah, exactly. And for England, yeah. And you know what? And this is where, you know what? Forget what I've just said really about Everton. Like, because I don't actually think that as an international coach, I don't think you can pick on form alone. I know it's nice to say that, and it does seem the best based on meritocracy, it seems the best way to pick. But functionality wise, I don't think you can. I think you do in these big tournaments, you do have to go with players tried and trusted. Earlier on into Gareth Southgate's reign, he did say he's picking players on form, but that is with a clean slate, people. That's with a blank canvas with no previous management that he's had of these players, no historical basis around it, no trust built yet. It's all on a blank canvas. So I think you can do that there. If you look at international sides throughout the years, I was talking about this with Ed before the squad was announced, probably a few days ago. Let's look at the last World Cup winners, right? France picking Olivier Giroud when there was clearer strikers in better form than Olivier Giroud, right? And then Didier Deschamps consistently went with him. In that season, Olivier Giroud scored 7 Premier League goals. There was many more strikers. Karim Benzema, right? He was picking Olivier Giroud over, right? And those situations there, Lacazette, he was in much better form that season. He got player of the season for Arsenal in that year. He was excellent. There was plenty of players out there. Miroslav Klose for Germany, Mario Gomez as well, 2 strikers. I know these are forwards that I'm picking up, but Benjamin Howardez as well, playing at right back for them. All managers across the world are going to pick their favourites. Pep Guardiola has favourites. Jurgen Klopp has favourites. Mikel Arteta has favourites. Every manager and especially in international management, where you have limited time with these players. You have a system that you're going to play that you think is best to manage with cope with the strengths and weaknesses. You don't get to build a squad like you do in club management. I believe, because you're literally picking out the players that you've got. If you don't have a great defense, if you don't have great defenders in your country, you don't get to buy a new one. You don't get to buy that one. So you really do. It's a different style of management. And I think we have to understand that. And for the players that I mentioned, Connor Cody, the reason he is in there, because this is a point that I brought up with Ed as well and Brush earlier on. Connor Cody is in there to play a role, not a playing role, but a role within that squad. The best role players in every single sport, right? Whether it's in basketball, especially in basketball, the best 6-man isn't usually the technically best 6-man in terms of their ability. It's about their attitude and their mentality of coming up against and play and having that impact. Jamal Crawford in basketball, he was, he won 6th Man of the Year how many times, and he wasn't necessarily the best like technical player coming off the bench at that point. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, football, right? Let's bring this back to football. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't the best technical footballer sitting on the bench at the time, but he's renowned for coming on the bench, making a big impact. And it does take certain players that are able to understand that role. And Connor Cody will understand the role he has in that side. He knows he's not going to start. And that's where you're going to say, for example, people saying Fikayo Tomori. I think there's other reasons than the role. I think also in the system that he's going to be playing in, I don't think it suits Fikayo Tomori's game. I think he's much more of a modern day system centre back, which I'll say where you defend high, you defend your line well, and you're having to cover those channels in a back four. Fikayo Tomori, where you're going to be defending deep, heading balls away, aerial duels. Statistically, he doesn't excel at that. And when I watched him against Chelsea, where AC Milan were dominated, he wasn't defending his box well at all. And you kind of saw that in the 3-0 defeat and at home when he gave away the penalty. And that's just 2 games where I've really got to see him there. And I will say it's a completely different system that he's going to be playing with. So I can understand why Connor Cody's in. Carl Walker, once again, similar aspect, leadership skills. Harry Maguire, I actually do think he's made the right choice in calling him up in the squad. If it's me personally, I don't start him. I don't start with Harry Maguire in there. If out of the players that are ready and fit, I would pick Ben White, Eric Dyer, and Stones in that back 3. But I'm all right with Harry Maguire in there because once again, it's about trust again for a lot of these managers. I brought you those names previously that weren't performing well for their club and weren't even starting week in, week out at these times. So it is definitely an interesting one right there. And then Calvin Phillips, I think that one is a little bit different because we don't have players that can play in that role. We don't have defensive midfielders or midfielders that sit deep. The only one I can think of is Declan Rice, and then Jordan Henderson, who can play that role. And then we needed another option in there because if one of them break down, that means our whole midfield is broken down in that sense. So I think it's more of a necessity for Calvin Phillips, and those are the real key talking points. Is there anything else that you'd like to add on it, bro, before we hit the comments and let's see?
No, I don't think so. I think on the defence, I think Connor Cody, I can speak highly of him, obviously, and know a lot about what he's like as a man and as a player. What he will bring to that squad is the professionalism, and I can guarantee you he has won Everton 3 points this season, and Wolves have lost 3 points by not having him. So that's what he's going to offer. I don't know much about Tomori, I'll be honest. I've watched him play a bit for Chelsea. I would have had him instead of Maguire. But when you're playing 3 at the back, Maguire at left centre-back or in the middle should be able to do you a job in a 3. So I can understand him taking him. Dyer, Cody, they're steady eddies, and that's not a bad thing. Every successful team has those. Every successful squad will have those. And if we don't take Luke Shaw at left back, I don't know who's going to play left back. Trippier, exactly. And then we're into unknown quantities such as Tyreek Mitchell, for example, Ryan Sessegnon. They're all unknown. So I think he's not been overly bad for Man United in recent weeks as well, and he's the best of what we have available. And let's not forget how good was he at Euro 2020, best left back in the tournament for a lot of people. So let's not sleep on the fact that they're going to play a different situation, a different formation, and in a different setup than their club team. So sometimes players play better for their international teams than they maybe do club sides.
Spot on. And just one more example before I hit the comments and see what you guys are saying. If it's based on club form, in the last Euros, Raheem Sterling's not in the squad, right? and Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, and how many goals did
Player
he
of the
get?
tournament. You know what I mean? So the swings in roundabouts a lot of the time. Yes, when we get to the England defenders, that's one of our weakest areas, including the midfield. We'll run through other areas, but I want to see what you guys are saying first. I want to see the squad. I want to see what you guys are saying, and we'll debate some of these points because I'm sure there is plenty to talk about. Let's see the first one in here. It's not the worst squad, but JWP and Tony for penalties, so we might actually win one.
Hey, we did Colombia.
We did. We beat yeah, exactly. Colombia, indeed. We needed them for Italy. It's for sure. James Ward-Prowse, I hear that, and for penalties, Tony, I hear that. But then, once again, James Ward-Prowse, that one's an interesting one because I think Tony, he's never played in England. He's never had an England cap. Whether that's wrong in itself, he should have had a game for at least in that situation in our last international break. But you're going to pick someone that you have seen and how they can manage being that bench player. Ivan Toney. Just he seems very expressive, I will say, and you know what? In fairness to him, I don't think he's a bench player. I don't think he's someone that can sit behind Harry Kane and you're not getting above Harry Kane because he's the main man and he has been the main man wherever he's been. Northampton, Peterborough, Brentford, like main man and star player. And you can. How many times, bro? I've watched football long enough. You've watched it even longer than me. How many big fishes in small ponds when they make that leap to that big team? It don't work. It don't work out.
Yeah, well, the last one we saw was Zaha, right? Went to Man United, didn't work out. Gone back to Palace, and he's still a living legend. You know what I mean? We have there's so many of them. You can name them all. There's Matt Letizia is one that really springs to mind, and sometimes a player needs that for their ego, to feed their ego.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's just the way it needs to be, I think.
They need to feel trusted. And
I think James Ward-Prowse, I think, is a big fish in a small pond as well now. I think his level, although it's well documented on this channel, I'm not a huge fan of his. He's definitely far too good for the bottom three in the Premier League, and he should maybe have moved on before now. I had him in my 26. James Ward-Prowse, but I didn't have Phillips.
Yeah, exactly. I hear that. Moss says Maguire, Dyer, Henderson, not good enough. Mount debatable. Maguire hasn't been good enough for Manchester United in the past couple of years. Once again, I'll debate that with. I asked this question to Ed: do Man United play the system that suits Maguire? I think everybody knows the answer to that. Absolutely not. But he does play well for England because that system suits his style of play. Dyer. Once again, recently he's been in poor form, but Antonio Conte loves him, plays in that exact same system for Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte's quote unquote said that he thinks Eric Dyer can be the best centre back in the world. I don't necessarily agree with him in that aspect, but that kind of shows you a lot of his personality and how he respects him and the role that he plays there. And if you look at it overall in his past year or so, Eric Dyer has been. He's playing in the Champions League. He's playing at a high level. He's currently fourth in a Spurs side. Like the facts are there to prove it. And if you speak to a lot of Spurs fans, until of late, recent form, he's been one of their best players and consistent ones. And then Henderson, once again, a bit more to do with we don't really have a plethora of players to choose from in that area. Would you agree there, Ed?
I think if you scroll out a little bit on that, so we can see the midfielders maybe as well. We are so light in midfield that's why he's having to make those. In an ideal world, we're talking any game we play in, right? Bellingham and Declan Rice are the two central midfielders, and the other ones we don't see the light of day. Conor Gallagher maybe comes on if we need a little spark. Henderson will only ever come on, I'd imagine, if someone like Declan Rice gets an injury. But if we do, or fresh legs, or to see out a game, or whatever it is that we need to do. It'd be really interesting, guys, if you're not in the Discord, because we'll wrap this up in sort of 15 minutes or so. But put your 26s. I didn't mind. Put it in the Discord. Talk it all through, because I think there are some people that have said that, you know, it's a joke. They don't rate this, and it'd be really interesting to see, because I think you have to look at it from the bigger picture of, you know, you can't have too many unproven players in a tournament. Name me a team that have won anything with a bunch of unproven players, especially in such a quick turnaround in a World Cup. There aren't any. There are going to be teams that would, you know, that get there through graft, that get there through togetherness, and, you know, not falling out. You know, how many Dutch teams have been incredible and won nothing because they couldn't get on? You know what I mean? That's just
great point.
So, yeah, the midfield for me is the worst part, because I think that back three, for me, I would have the same as you. I would have John Stones, Eric Dyer, Ben White, and hope that we don't need to rely on Maguire in the form he's in. Cody, as much as I love him, he's out of his depth in a World Cup personally. Eric Dyer, don't sleep on him, actually, how good at passing he is as well. Don't sleep on that.
Very good passer, yeah.
And it's about being sturdy. It's about keeping the ball at the back of the net with Pickford behind them. It's the midfield for me is where I'm really worried. An injury to Rice, some bad form for Rice or Bellingham, and then we're into players that are injured, players that have dipped in and out of form, or players like Jordan Henderson, who are definitely in the tail end of their careers.
For sure. That's why, as I said, I actually don't disagree with Southgate's system, because I think it does help try and negate the defensive issues and balance out the midfield in terms of packing out that defense and trying to counter attack. Because honestly, I had this debate with so many England fans, because a lot of people, the popular, most people think, right, the Italy game was Southgate's fault. Arsenal fans, you can definitely agree with me here. When your team picks up the lead, I guarantee you the manager doesn't say, you know what, let's sit back and counter-attack. What happened? We've seen it at Arsenal. Mikel Arteta, how many times we took the lead and then we just sat back and we had to bring on Rob Holding in the end because our players were young. They weren't mature enough. It's not even about a question of ability. It's about mentality and experience on how to slow the game down, get the ball moving. Right now, we went through those teething periods and we're much better at doing it. England in the last tournament were the youngest squad in the last two tournaments, by the way, where ultimately we lost control in those big moments. But the midfields that we came up against, the experience of a Luka Modric, Ballon d'Or winner, Mateo Kovacic is a quality footballer, Marcelo Brozovic in there as well. Some decent footballers they've got right there who are title winners and Champions League winners that they've got in there. And then Italy with Verratti, Jorginho, third in the Ballon d'Or that year. And then Barella, who's probably the most sought after midfielder in the world alongside Bellingham. Right. It's crazy the talent that we came up against. And even against, and then I said this as well, the result always puts things into perspective, because people thought we'd done excellent against Germany. When I remember watching that game, we literally counterattacked Germany. And we were quite fortunate as well when Thomas Muller was running through one-on-one and he messed up that chance. Kai Havertz missed a big opportunity. Timo Werner did. But we had 3 chances in that game and we took 2 of them and we won 2-0 and everyone was happy singing, you know, whatever. Results do change a lot of perspective, I believe. So yeah, I'm here doing my defense of, like, because we spoke about this before when we spoke about we did a whole stream on it. Do you remember it, bro? And we was kind of talking about, and we was kind of having debate. I can't remember. It was someone in the chat. Big up my man who's in here. I forgot the name, but we was having that big debate when we was talking about, yeah, like what Southgate could do better. There are criticisms, of course, like of every manager that has their weaknesses. No one's perfect, but I don't think the overall outlook from it, that real negative approach, honestly, if you opened up with this England side, you get run out. You get with the players that we've got, not with this England side, I'm saying with the talent pool that we have in midfield and defence, you get cut apart.
Yeah, I think being the England manager must be one of the hardest things to do as well. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I just think that we have to be realistic, personally, with why some players are picked.
Yeah.
You know, in my original draft, my 26, I think, you know, it's all a little bit. What if that pass had been put sideways in the World Cup?
Thank you. I forgot about that. If he squares that 2-0.
Yeah, if he squares, it's Kane, right? Is it Kane?
Yeah, exactly.
Kane to Sterling, right? We probably wouldn't be having this. Southgate was the one for a bit last summer. Let's not all forget. You know what I mean? And that team we all were in love with for the first time in a long time, probably the first time since 1996, because they were relatable lads that got on, that enjoyed it, that had fun. You know, their YouTube videos were fun. Let's not think that we have a God-given right to get into the semi-finals just because we've had a couple of good tournaments. Our squad is not where it was with that midfield right now.
Definitely.
You know? And it's going to be a really interesting World Cup. It's going to be a really interesting World Cup. We are literally a week away. It is nuts. We won't talk about why it's in Qatar, all the politics. I'm excited for it. My little boy, he's 7. It's his first real World Cup. This is why we love football, because you guys can disagree with us, we can disagree with you, but as long as everyone is respectful, then it's so good. And I put in the chat, I would love to see some people's 26s, because I'm thinking some of the people I've put, you know, we haven't got a lot of time, but one person, I think it was Luke, he had about 7 players that he wouldn't have picked. I'd love to see his, because I genuinely would. I'd like to see who he went with, because I think this is incredible. And before we go, what's your 11 to? What you starting?
Starting 11 right now. Pickford in goal. Pickford starts. You know, that trust factor again. If it's me, I'm picking Ramsdale. Of course, there's probably a little bit of bias in that, but in terms of how I want to play. But right now, we got to be honest. Pickford in goal hasn't let the England side down. Most caps, you know, etc. Pickford starts. Right wing back, Kieran Trippier. In the 3 at the back, as I said, I'd start Ben White in at right centre back, Eric Dyer in at centre, John Stones in at that left part there. Left wing back, Luke Shaw. In the midfield, Rice, Bellingham automatically picks themselves. No one gets close to them in that midfield for me. And then the 3 up top, Sterling on the left, Bukayo Saka on the right, Harry Kane up top. Is that the same one you'd go for?
Yeah, I don't think I'd change any of it. Potentially, depending on how fit Kyle Walker is, I wouldn't be mad at him being right centre back, Ben White on the left, and John Stones or Ben White, sorry, in the middle. John Stones on the left.
Yeah, I hear that. What about impact players now? Who's the first man you're looking to bring off the bench to impact the game?
Depends what the game is. If the game's stretched and we've got space over the top, Rashford. Best player without the ball probably in the Premier League. Don't give him the ball, just give him the chance. My 26 did not have Grealish in it, which I think a lot of people didn't say in the chat. I think he's not in the best of form, and I'm not overly convinced.
Style either. Yeah.
No, I'm not overly convinced he fits the style. And if we're looking midfield, realistically, you've got Mason Mount and Conor Gallagher that will be busier in the midfield. But again, if you play one of those, it probably means that Bellingham's not playing. And for me, Bellingham is first name on the team sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Right there. I'm not a massive fan of Jack Grealish, so I actually do prefer Maddison over him. In all honesty, but that, debatable once again for a lot of people. Let's see what you guys are saying before we wrap up. I think JWB, with his ability to score from free kicks and penalties rather than from out of form, Gallagher. And we don't know the fitness of Phillips or Henderson. Once again, 2-3 months ago, Gallagher walks into this side, probably the best midfielder we've got in the Premier League on form. It's hard to, really judge players out of 2-3 months when you've got a World Cup coming. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We spoke about this with Moss. Me, Ed and Will were trying about Carl Walker.
If he hadn't played for Spurs, Moss, you would love him.
I think you would if he hadn't played for Spurs. Big up yourself. Let's have a look. Agree, Ed. Forget about Maguire's England future. He shouldn't go. One mistake could be.
He's the only one for me that I think is debatable, but I can see why he's taken him.
I can, yeah. yeah, it's one of them ones, man. I don't. I understand why he's picked him. And international managers, have a look at Spain, have a look at France, have a look at Portugal, have a look at Germany, even Brazil. Right, there was literally saying it's a conspiracy that Martinelli's going to the World Cup. Like there's outrage on all of them. Managers are going to pick their tried and trusted players. Is Rashford the third striker option? Yeah, he is.
I think he has to be, Moss. That's a good question.
It is a good one. Saka left wing back again. I don't think he'll start there, and I don't think he's the backup choice. I don't think he is. Nah. I think he'll rather put Trippier out.
Trippier will go over. Trippier will go over.
I think Saka's the third choice left wing back, in fact. But yeah, I wouldn't do it. He's too good on the right, and England don't have another right winger.
No.
Not happy. So yeah, in terms of what Ed brought up earlier, in terms of Luke's comment, Luke wouldn't have taken Dyer, Cody, Shaw, Walker, Maguire, Mount, Phillips. Can see credible arguments for Pope, TAA, and Rashford. Wow, yeah, definitely would be interested to see your 26. Let's have a look. Hey, Moss, I've watched probably more football than a lot of 55-plus-year-old people. Trust me. Hey, Ed will be able to tell you this. I didn't go out of the house when I was a kid.
No, he's saying basketball.
Oh, Liberty B-ball. Oh, fair enough. Hey, thought he was on a question my football knowledge then. Hey, I was ready.
Louis, I've suggested the ball talk chat function in the Discord. Because I think we can run with this. I think where we should put our teams for what we think.
Yeah, exactly. But for real, definitely get your teams in there. Do we need Gallagher, Mount, and Maddison? That's why I take JWP. No. But it is what it is. I don't think Gallagher plays that same role that Mount and Maddison does. What about you, bro?
I mean, James Ward-Prowse was in mine instead of Gallagher. I just think he has that ability to sit a little bit more. And to do some of the more dirty work and his set piece. The problem you have with James Ward-Prowse is you have his set pieces as like his pinnacle. But realistically, we have Trippier, who's incredible. We have Trent, if we need it, who's incredible. Do you know what I mean? It's not like his massive skill set that he has over most people is maybe lessened by the fact that we do have other players that
Maddison
are also incredible. Yeah, including Maddison as well. Good point. Yeah. So, but I had him over Gallagher because I just felt that if we were going to take Phillips, we needed someone else that can sit a little bit more. And his defensive output this year has been a lot better.
Yeah. And Gallagher, man, honestly, Chelsea is a horror show at the moment. Trust me. He's a very good footballer. We were rating him 2-3 months ago, and with what he brought to that, literally, we saw him shut down Arsenal in that midfield and shut down Partey with his ridiculous set of lungs that he's got. I think he could be a definite asset to bring on in and just shut out a game even. Let's have a look. Yeah, you see, Luke, as he says, my 26 with Howell Potter as manager could win the World Cup. It'll be interesting. Because I really don't think our side is good enough to play that way against a lot of the other sides that we have, given the set of players we have. Love me some Phillips. It's the main reason England could get away with playing Maguire last tournament. Phillips gets the loose balls and works. Moss loves that player. Pep is smart. I'm not against Phillips being in as backup, but if he plays two holding mids, it could backfire. We don't need two holding. Rice and Jude with Foden, Mount, or Maddison in the front would be great. I think Rice and Bellingham get that freedom with the three at the back, just as long as one of them sits. Would you agree, bro?
Yeah, definitely. The three at the back allows more from the midfield.
Yeah. Exactly that there. Let's have a look. JWP can also play in a double pivot. He's done it at Southampton. Once again, Southampton play a really aggressive system where, they press really high with Ralph Hasenhüttl. This England side aren't going to be pressing. I mean, no international side presses.
No, not really.
You can't. Like in tournament football, because you don't get much time on the training pitch. This England squad is a joke. Southgate out. JW talk makes head feel sick. Watch, his Wi-Fi is going to crash. JWP for pens. I think we've got some good penalty takers, though.
Yeah, I think we're okay for pens as well.
Yeah.
And Pickford's a good keeper.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Maddison, he's another one who could take pens.
Yep.
I mean, let's have a quick run through. I mean, I trust Trent on a pen.
Yep.
We've seen Maguire with the pen already.
And Dyer put the one away against Colombia.
Trippier on a penalty. Rice, decent penalty taker.
Not Henderson.
No, not Henderson. Mason Mount.
I'd pick him.
Of course, Kane. Yes.
Rashford normally.
Wilson, definitely.
Yep.
Saka.
Yep. Madison,
definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Sterling.
We got enough. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure about Sterling. I think he can kick a football that well, but
no, not that. He doesn't kick it that far, does he?
nah. Exactly. But yeah. I think we got enough good penalty takers in there. And
Pickford.
you can't, Pickford could smash one in as well. And it's hard, man, because I don't do you take it basically essentially a kicker? Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do so. I like
this won't be the only time we'll chat.
No, we'll definitely have plenty more. We've got to wrap it up soon now, guys. But let me run through your comments quickly. Let me see if there are any more that stand out. Sent to on the Discord.
Yes.
You got the link. Ed popped the link in the chat earlier on.
I did. I'll pop it in one more time.
One more time, just as we get ready to wrap up. Tereak, we bottled it, went 1-0 up, did like we did against Croatia, did sod all. Southgate plays unattractive, boring football. We need more progressive manager with the players that we have. Luke, once again, youngest team. We've seen it with Arsenal and Arteta. 1-0 up. We don't attack. We bring on pressure. Now that we've got a much better and more experienced team, we can do it. We don't do that anymore. Also, midfields, they control games. Their midfields come out on top. They determine how a game's going to be played. You don't take your chances. You don't square. Harry Kane squares that ball. 2-0. We're not coming back. People, remember that. We take our chances, even against Italy. The forwards were poor. If you want to criticize Southgate not starting Saka, I'm here for that, because he started mounting that game and Saka came on, made a difference. But yeah, it's hard to. I really don't think a manager says, right, 1-0 up in first 2 seconds, sit back. I think that's players. It's not being quite ready for it. But yeah, guys, we're going to wrap it up now. We've gone for 2 hours and 6 minutes. Thank you for your interaction once again. Guys, you guys are amazing. We will have plenty more World Cup chat coming throughout. We've got plenty more content coming through. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. Sunday, I'll let you know what's coming up for this week.
Maybe some shorts from the game. You're going to try and do something?
Yes, possibly so. Yeah, I'll get some shorts out. I might try and get multiple ones and then even
post it later.
A video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, post the shorts out immediately and then in for that later. Let you know the thoughts and the atmosphere in and outside the stadium as well. But yeah, Ed, you got any final words to say, bro, with the World Cup coming up?
Yeah, no, just super. I am super excited. I think I'm going to be on as much as I can with you during it as well. So yeah, can't wait.
Exactly that. We've got plenty of the watch-alongs will be back. They will be back, and we're going to be doing shows galore. And yeah, join us for this festival of football. But people, we're going to be out. Love and peace to you all. And come on, it's coming home.